Hey, Rainy Joe here, and welcome back to Folk February, the series where I'm going to be reacting to a different folk album every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday throughout the month of February. And of course, today you read the title. We are going to be listening to Sufjan Stevens' 2015 album, Carrie and Lowell. I am somewhat familiar with Sufjan Stevens. I listened to his album Javelin last year. It was one of my favorite albums of the year, managing to crack my top 25 of the year. But I have not listened to much else of Sufjan's. I've always liked his voice. I've heard a few songs here and there, but I've never given a full listen to an album other than, of course, his 2023 album Javelin, which I thought was fantastic. But Carrie and Lowell, I've heard many good things about. I know it is much more depressive than a lot of his work, which is saying a lot considering he typically is a more depressing artist, and it centers around the themes of death and loss, especially with the death of his mother. And I always like a good depressing listen, especially when it's tied to folk music. Folk and depression, those things go together. So without wasting any time, 11 songs here, 43 minutes. Death with Dignity is the opener here. So let's just jump into it. Very gentle as expected, not just from the folk music, but from Sufjan. I'm going to keep the genius lyrics up because I'm expecting some more lyrical complexities with such a heavy album. For example, the desert here apparently is a metaphor for the wake of losing his mother. The void that is left in him. He has such a clear, iconic voice. I mean, I feel like no other artist really sounds like Sufjan in terms of the vocals. At least from the folk genre. I mean, it's very, very different, very unique. Very self-harmonic. This piano passage is beautiful. Very gentle. Really great opening track here. I feel like it does a great job setting up the theme of loss. Especially with that final line, you'll never see us again. Very stark, very real, and raw. Right. Great opening track. Next we're going into the track here, Should Have Known Better. I'm going to try to avoid looking at the interpretations of the lyrics on genius.com and just follow my own. But if I can't get a grasp at it, I will check out the website just to get a clear focus on the track. Seems like he struggled. These first passages seems like he struggled with the passing of his mom. Almost like a sense of regret, not knowing how to handle her passing. I really like those gentle, angelic backup vocals. They're just a very gentle plucking of the acoustics as well. I like this direction here. Picking up a little bit more synths or piano. I really like this one. There's a lot of regret within the song here and the lyrics. Rose of Aaron's beard. See, now that's something that I'm like, what does that mean? You know, it's gotta be some sort of historical thing probably. Some sort of theatrical. Rose of Aaron's beard is a reference to Aaron's Rose, the founder of Rosenberg, Oregon. Another Oregon reference, I guess, given Sufjan's upbringing. Yeah, Stevens makes a point to incorporate Oregon history and town names into this album. Also could be seen as a biblical allusion. See what I mean? You know, definitely not something on a first listen you're going to instantly understand. The more you delve into it, the more you'll get out of it. The second half of this album so far, or song I should say, has been uplifting in a way. Beautiful track. Okay, fantastic track, beautiful. Now we're going into All of Me Wants All of You. Pardon? I did not expect such obscenities. Such a beautiful piece of music. Another organ reference, Spencer's Butte. Seems like more of a love track than one tied to the passing of his mother. I like that this long drone-like synths here in this back half. Kind of gives that ambient tone. More of a love-infused track than a tribute, I feel like, to his mother. Perhaps I'm missing something there. But a pretty solid track as well. Next we got Drawn to the Blood. I really like the overall cohesiveness of the tone of this album, as expected from Sufjan. A lot of biblical references throughout this track. Not sure how I feel about this one. It's a bit of a slow build. Did I speak too soon? We're 2 minutes into this 3-minute track, and maybe it is shifting focus. I do like the more drony ambient tone of this album. Certain passages take time to kind of develop. It kind of just fades out. Not sure how I feel about Drawn to the Blood of a track. I think that one did not hit me as hard as some of these openers did. But we got Eugene, this next track here. I'll show what these references to lemons have to do. I'm sure Emerald Park, probably another Oregon reference. Okay, Eugene, Oregon. That's the reference here. The whole song is about the location of Oregon. Never would have known. It seems like childhood memories that this is harkening back to. Seems like this is definitely a call out to his mother. Ooh, I like the little turnaround of the "if they'll never hear you," rather than "if you'll hear them." The songs itself. It's almost like putting all the power into the loss of his mother, rather than the power into the music. Next, we're going to 4th of July. I'm gonna assume by, words like spread and whatnot, his mother passed from cancer is my inference here. Yeah, looks like it is the case. This album so far kind of reminds me of Crow Looked at Me from Mount Erie, which was a dedication to his wife who passed from cancer. I will say that one is much more blunt, and I would not do a reaction to that one for the emotional turmoil that would put me in. I've already heard it, but if that was a first reaction, I would probably be crying on camera. So we'll go with something a bit softer. But lyrics like that are certainly still just as blunt. I like how raw and visceral this album can be so far. I feel like this is from the perspective of his mother, this verse, referring to him as little dove and speaking of her leaving. It's like a back and forth conversation here. This is a beautiful track so far, very raw, very emotional, also very honest. The incredibly blunt song. It's just got a hard-hitting finish. That whole last verse to to this outro here. Given how depressing these albums have been for Folk February, I'm gonna keep an eye on my mental well-being throughout this month. But that's a beautiful track. Going right into the only thing here. This gentle guitar certainly picking things up emotionally, lifting my spirits a little bit. That last one was a real rut. Despite being a bit more, gentle in its plucking and a bit more uplifting, lyrically still very depressing and truthful. But I kind of like the focus of, despite feeling these overwhelming waves of depression following the passing of his mom, Sufjan is still able to see the beauty in the world and the sense of happiness that kind of keeps you tied to reality. Very religious themes here. Seems like religion is what saves Sufjan from going over the rails here, emotionally, mentally. The atmosphere of this album, much like Javelin, is just one of pure beauty, pure awe. It's so gentle but so uplifting at the same time of feeling very depressive. Man, that passage there, that vocal. He sings it with such sorrow. And, beautiful lyricism. Everything I feel returns to you. Everything I see returns to you. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful track. I've got to say, everything about that one was just well wrapped together. Both uplifting and depressive. Great track. Here we got the title track, Carrie and Lowell. I can assume it's going to be about his mother, Carrie, and Lowell is whom? Lowell is his stepfather. Okay. Or was his stepfather for a period of time, but he kept a close relation to. So it's a dedication to them. I love the very stripped back focus and instrumental of this album. It's like a less is more approach, especially with themes so daunting and overwhelming. I love that little break there. I like this country banjo in the back there too. Really gives it into that small town Oregon mentality. You can feel the culture within it. Great track. Next we're going into John My Beloved. I thought the title track was fantastic. Really not as much of a powerhouse as some of the other tracks here, but I thought it was a good tone setter, and certainly kind of shows the origins of Sufjan in a way, given the culture of where he grew up in Oregon. You can really hear it within the instrumentation. We got John My Beloved is this one here. I like this prodding instrumental. Hard to extrapolate what's being sung about here. I'm not too sure. I thought maybe it was about a relationship. This conflicting feelings of a homosexual man, maybe. Oh, he's singing to Jesus in this one. It's like if you took the track off of In the Airplane Over the Sea, the second one, King of Carrot Flowers Part 2, I think is the name of it, and turned it into an entire song. If you took that one opening line and then transformed it into 5 minutes, just a man devoting his love to Jesus. I really like the very stripped back approach to this. There's no guitar work, it's just Sufjan and what sounds like synths of some sort, just gentle ambient tones. Very atmospheric track, but not a lot to say about it. I feel like it's one that's More to be taken in privately, silently, quietly. But next we got No Shade in the Shadow of the Cross. I did like My Beloved John, or John the Beloved. John My Beloved. But again, like I said, there's not a lot to grasp onto and to react to. But No Shade in the Shadow of the Cross is this one. This album so far has been one of a very delicate nature. Certain tracks, though, certainly stand out, especially 4th of July and The Only Thing. Like the oceans in the background there. Valley of the Dells, is that an Oregon reference? The Dells is a city in northern Oregon. Should have read an encyclopedia on Oregon before this one. It's very peaceful. Jesus. No swearing on the album so far, other than that. But I think given the nature of a breakdown at the end here, makes sense. Kind of adds. Very choice words. Lots of biblical religious imagery throughout this LP. I thought that one was good. Nice and short, nice and sweet. It's direct. But now we got Blue Bucket of Gold. This is the last track here. Let's see how it closes things out. Showing the forms of self-destruction and kind of journaling his unraveling after his mom's passing. You know, he does a pretty good job painting that picture, especially with the last track. But is it going to end with him in an uplifting tone? One of acceptance? You like the wind picking up here. Oh, wait, cut off. I like the very careful choice of effects, sound effects, being mixed within the music here. Always there to sort of set up an atmosphere, it feels. Seems like Sufjan heavily turned to religion as a way to accept and mourn the loss of his mother. It's a very ambient heavy album. Kind of like a ambient folk in a way. I think this album will grow on me the more I listen to it, because there's a lot to delve into. These lyrics kind of suggesting like a begging from Sufjan for some sort of closure. It's not implied if he gets it. Maybe he's just accepting that that's the way things are. That the abruptness of death does not offer closure. I've got to say, it was a very depressing, raw album. A lot to take in, a lot to dissect on repeated listenings for sure. Not something that a first reaction will necessarily give a lot to. But I gotta say, that was still a pretty brilliant album. The musicianship of Sufjan Stevens, just as strong as ever, which is as expected. I mean, I loved Javelin. I thought it was fantastic. And this album is considered one of his best. And I could see why, because thematically, it's very cohesive. And a lot of it feels like it's very pulled together by its atmospheric, cinematic approach, but also very down-to-earth and kind of does a great job feeling very personal given the Oregon references and the effects used within the music as well. Beautiful listen through and through. And yeah, there's not much else to say about it. Just a great listen. But if you like this album and liked this reaction, go ahead and hit like and subscribe to follow along listening to more albums throughout February that are folk related. If you like folk albums, go ahead and go ahead and comment one down below. I will go ahead and react to it and check it out on this channel throughout the month of February at some point. Every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you can expect a folk February video. I'm also reacting to new albums as well, just as they release, as they come and go. So keep a lookout for those. If there's any album that is brand new that you'd like to see, go ahead and put that in the comments. Maybe I'll check it out if I haven't already. So yeah, that pretty much does it for this video. And as always, my name is Randy Joe, and I'm signing off.